Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gouker. Your guide, Anna Gouker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gouker. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I'm so excited to share with you the guests for today. These are two people who are truly examples of how to be an excellent member of the community, individuals who share what they have to offer and are always looking for solutions and ways to contribute to the people around them. Cliff and Yvonne Cooks run Barneveld Community Cafe, which is a local diner in Barneveld, Wisconsin, that they transformed into a nonprofit offering their community free meals. It was such a pleasure to talk with them, to learn about how they have offered so many things throughout their lives and gone through so many chapters and reinvented themselves over and over again, always finding solutions and solving big problems. Here are Cliff and Yvonne Cooks of Barneveld Community Cafe. Can you tell me a bit about how long you've been in the Barneveld community and what brought you to this area?
Well, we'll start with the fact what brought us to the Barneveld area was a former customer of ours in a restaurant we had in Black Earth contacted me because he was opening a restaurant and he wanted help. And I said, sure. And we ended up moving to Barneveld. And how long we've been in the cafe, in the Barneveld Community Cafe, is about 3 years. And we started out as a for-profit cafe, and that lasted until March 24th, 2020, the day the whole world turned upside down with COVID. And we've been a nonprofit community charity ever since.
So you were in Black Earth running a restaurant before that?
Yes.
How long did you have that business?
My husband was working for a restaurant here in Barneveld, and the restaurant closed, and he'd been working there for a couple of years. But before the restaurant closed, we'll get a little bit personal here. My husband had been diagnosed with prostate cancer and had a total prostatectomy. And 10 days after he came out of the hospital, the restaurant closed that he was working at. We had a little bit of insurance, and so then he decided he wanted to open another restaurant. And there was a little cafe available for rent here in Barneveld. And I said, go for it, Cliff. So on September the 3rd, 2019, we opened a for-profit cafe called Cliff Cooks as a little play on his last name. And And it was successful. We didn't really owe anybody anything because he had the insurance money. But come March the 20th, when the pandemic really came into being, we knew that we couldn't sustain the model that we had. And I had worked in nonprofit organizations for many years on and off, and had been a Vista volunteer for years. And I said, people will still need to eat. And we had a drive-up window. And so we just said, let's make it a nonprofit. Nobody has to pay anything because people were losing jobs. They were being furloughed. Money was tight, you know. And so with my knowledge of nonprofits and his wonderful cooking, we reckoned, what else are we going to do for the next couple of years except sit at home and drive each other nuts? So we became a nonprofit cafe. And then from there, we went on to add a food sustainability project with a guy called Joe Mingle, who didn't want good food to end up in landfills. So we worked with him. And then the need, instead of getting smaller, expanded. And we formed the Food Sustainability Project, and using the funding, the donations that were given to us from the cafe. In fact, that's where we were today at the Food Sustainability Project. It got too big for the cafe. We had to have it at the American Legion Hall. And today we gave away a ton of food, and it's all fresh food, you know, canned, but lots of cheese, yogurts, which we buy from the local stores. And so you're not getting something that's freezer burned or something you wouldn't feed your own family. And so that's where we are as of today. I mean, and like enough, Clip also does a Thursday night meal, and we feed between about 70, 75 people now on a Thursday evening as well. And Clip, you could hold that, my finger. Don't mind if I say ow. Okay. Thank you, dear. Yeah, they don't often get the ows, and I just
Yeah.
with.
The whole concept of the Barneveld Community Cafe and your sustainability partnership, it's so genius. I definitely want to dive into that more. But to back up, did you both know that you wanted to be in the restaurant business your whole lives? Or was this transition that you've had the last few years completely unexpected?
Yeah.
Well, I've been a chef for between 45 and 50 years. And I had figured on actually working for someone in another restaurant and work a couple years and retire from there. But being past 60 and getting employed is an adventure. So we ended up with the cafe we have now, and we operated that as for-profit. Yvonne was going to be IT and stuff, and I was going to do the cafe, and we would support each other. And do you want to go into your background, dear?
Well, I came over from Scotland, and I just kept taking office jobs, you know, and that's what I did. And then I became a volunteer in service to America for 4 years, and I loved that, where I could volunteer. And and make a change. And so with that experience, it was very easy for me to say, let's pivot, Cliff. We don't take any salary, and there's nobody gets a salary at the cafe. Nobody gets paid, maybe in pancakes or a breakfast sandwich or something, but nobody gets paid anything for working at the cafe, including Cliff and I. So by that time, we had Social Security anyway, so we had money to live on. And it just felt like the right thing to do. So a lot of people who volunteer for us are also in similar situations. They've retired, they want to help. But we have young people as well who want to volunteer too. So we have a great mix of volunteers from ages 12 on up to over 70, so lots of volunteers. It's not Cliff and I, we don't do this on our own. No, it's everybody who helps. Today was just wonderful because we also had a lot of Christmas gifts to give away. It's organized by a volunteer. And it's not a big cafe. This is not like anything we've ran in the past. We ran a cafe for 120 people seats before. So when you say cafe, it's like 25 seats max. It's like having the family over for dinner. So, yeah.
That you're able to live off of Social Security, and yet you're running this nonprofit and not taking a salary, but you could easily just retire and enjoy your life right now. What makes you decide we want to give back to the community?
Well, our parents, that's what we do. That's what small town Americana does. We help each other, and we combined our skills because, well, what would we do? Sit home and watch movies?
There's only so many movies you can watch without watching them 10 times.
I agree.
So it keeps us out of trouble sometimes. Everybody gets a bad joke when they come into the cafe because I like to see people smile. And one of the things I do is tell bad jokes, really bad jokes. His is worse. His jokes are worse than mine, but mine are pretty bad. So we just treat everybody like family, because they are our family, and we want to help people. We have a saying that says no borders, because we don't ask for names, addresses, things that would stop you coming into a place if you needed food or if you needed help. And oftentimes outside of the cafe, we help a lot of people who know if I don't know the answer, then I will find someone who does.
This story is really everything that I love. I am from a small town in Illinois, and I really think that I benefited so much from the fact that I grew up in a small town and it was more connected, I think, than I wouldn't have had the experience I had, I think, in like a big city. And the fact that you're able to sustain your cafe with all volunteers is pretty incredible. I do hear lately from a lot of small business owners that are having a hard time finding people to work for them or in their businesses. I hear a lot of people say, no one wants to work. What would you say is, or in response to that, and speaking to your experience recruiting volunteers?
It isn't they don't want to work, give them a reason.
I mean, when we ran our restaurant, we did, at the time, this was 15 years ago, we did $8 an hour plus tips for our restaurant staff, which was unheard of at the time.
At the time, it was $2.35.
It was $2.35. The minimum pay for a waitress or waiter was $2.35. Now it's $3.25. It hasn't gone up that much, no matter what they say. And it's not that people don't want to work; they're working in different areas. They're working in better paying areas, I think. I don't think anybody wants to sit home and not work. Our volunteers, for the most part, are young. They're in school, or they're older and generously give up their time. I mean, we have one of the women works for a medical company. She works from home, but she still comes in on a Saturday and volunteers. I mean, I don't think people don't want to work. I think they want to be treated with a little bit of respect. Now, I also understand that, I see a lot of ads and they're saying bonus paid $2,000, $3,000, sign on now, and it's $18 to $20 an hour. But then what about the staff that's already there that don't get the bonus and are still working for $18 to $20 an hour? I think there's a little, as someone who's employed people in the past, and we have employed a lot of people because we owned a couple of restaurants before the cafe, I would definitely have to say that
Take care of your
you've
people.
got to look after your staff that you have, and they will tell people to come and work for you. That's kind of my philosophy. Look after the people you've got working for you, and then other people will be willing to come and work. I think the unemployment in Wisconsin is skewed in the respect that once you don't get unemployment anymore, you're no longer counted as being unemployed, which kind of skews things if you're still not employed, that is something they've never addressed. It should be addressed because it leads to homelessness and the affordable housing, because they're trying so desperately to do affordable housing. It turns out that Cliff and I are going to have to leave Barneveld because the house that we're currently in now has been taken over by WIDA and rural housing. And I guess we make too much money to live in the apartment that we live in and have lived in for 5 years. So now there's no place else in Barneveld to go. So we have to start looking for a house or an apartment to live in. I think that's just silly. They could have done some Section 42 housing and kept some full rate housing as well. We shouldn't be penalized because my husband's my caregiver. And he makes some money looking after me. So that's kind of hard. I don't want to move again. that it'll be the 28th move. And I'm not going to say it's going to be the last move, because last time I said that, I guess it wasn't. And we just don't know what's going to happen.
What's next?
So we just, someone said to me at a meeting, what you do is you get up in the morning and you do what you can and you win the day. And if you can win that day and you get up the following morning and do what you can, you win the day. And I think that was a very profound thing to say. 3 easy words to keep you mortified, win the day. Because just when you think things are all settled down, you're throwing a curveball.
No kidding.
And you know what I'm talking about, so you just end up you've got to get up, you've got to win the day and continue to get up and keep, and keep going, with a smile on your face. And have a good sense of humor about life. You got to have a good sense of humor about life. That's how I look at it. And, to me, the joy in what we do is seeing the kids in second grade at Barneveld School actually running to the cafe door on a Thursday morning, because we always treats for them because they're out walking. And we always make treats for them. And one of the kids' mum and dad's came, and you can tell her that one.
Okay, well, one of the kids' parents came in and brought a sibling in, and they were having breakfast, and they introduced themselves as one of our second graders' parents. Well, he started out wasn't really good about getting up for school and whatever, and now at least on Thursdays he wakes his parents up because it's a school day and they get to go to the cafe.
And once they're a little bit better behaved, they get to come for lunch, a pancake lunch at the cafe for free. Oh, that's the treat for school, We try and help, and we also try and bring fun to the kids, and to show them that volunteering is a good thing. I think it's the best thing you can give for anyone and any organization is your time. Is worth more than money, and a lot of people don't realize that, but time given and given from your heart is worth a ton of money, so I really appreciate our volunteers. In fact, this morning I told them that for about the 50th time this year, I kept saying, I really appreciate what you guys do, because it's not just Cliff and I, we're only part of it. We have a lot of really good volunteers in the cafe, and we have 8 board members. We have an attorney. We have a CPA who keeps us on track, and we're a 501c3, and all of that was donated by Chris Dodge's company, the attorneys. They donated all their time on the 501c3, so we were very lucky. Good folk.
It does bring me to my question about what it was like for you transitioning from a small business to a nonprofit. I know firsthand how complex it is to start a new nonprofit and find all the right people to make it a success. What's that been like for you, especially when you were in the midst of an ongoing public health crisis and everyone was a little bit scattered and confused? I can imagine.
Well, for me, a nonprofit, I have been part of nonprofits for a long time. So I basically knew how they worked. The only thing that I forgot to do was certify us with the state of Wisconsin as a nonprofit. All the federal stuff got done, but I didn't think for a million years we would make a donation for the year would be $80,000 in donations for the first year. I said maybe 20, so we didn't need to register with the state. And it turned out it was about 80,000. And so they said, don't worry about it, we'll get it sorted out. And they sorted it out. And that was about the only mistake. And then I tried to buy a cafe license for this coming year for 2022. And they said, no, because you're nonprofit, you don't need a license to run a nonprofit cafe. And but I did try. And they said we didn't need it.
Well, we're certified.
But we're both still certified chefs and certified allergists.
And state licensed.
We're still state licensed for what?
The safe serve manager.
Oh, safe serve managers, all that stuff. We've got all that. All the bells and whistles as far as the food goes, how to maintain it, how to cook it. Is still safe serve certified, both of us. And we just try and keep up with the times, you know.
How did you find your board?
How did I find them? I begged them. I begged people.
Good people that we knew.
Good people that we knew, yeah. We found our board. Or they found us.
Through the cafe?
And no, not
some yes, some no.
Some we knew beforehand. Sometimes it was just a case of saying, I know you don't want to be on a board, but would you be a board advisor so that we have enough input? Because we only need a board of 5, but I just felt that I wanted some more advisors on our meetings, you know. So I reached out to some of my friends who had businesses, some of our friend's daughter who'd become an attorney, she's on the board, and just people in general that we knew and trusted. And our board was formed very quickly because I already had the mission statement and everything ready. I had done that in my spare time years ago because I thought I was going to open a nonprofit in Black Earth. So all of that I just changed over to Barneveld Community Cafe because it was very similar. The mission statement was very similar to what we wanted for the cafe, but we wanted it not just to be about Iowa County. So I said no borders at the very end of the mission statement, Iowa County and surrounding areas, because nobody should be excluded from, if you're hungry, you're hungry. Nobody should be excluded from not getting a meal or getting food because you live 4 miles outside Iowa County. That's not right.
I mean, the hardest part is coming in the door.
Yeah.
They don't have to make it any harder for them because some people, the only thing they got left is their dignity, and we ain't going to take that away from them.
So we have a no stigma policy. We don't ask questions, and except maybe what do you want to eat, you know, because we have a menu there. but we've tried to destigmatize food insecurity, if that makes sense. There's a lot of stigma involved when people ask for help. And normally, if you go to a food pantry, you have to give your name and your family and your
Social Security and driver's license number, last 3 paychecks.
You have to
firstborn male child.
Not as bad as that.
Oh, but pretty close.
Pretty close. There's a lot of stigma involved in asking for help. We all know that. We know it happens everywhere.
Oh.
And so one of the things I wanted to do, I mean, I know that Soul Food, which is Bon Jovi's restaurant, he asks for volunteer hours.
$20 or
volunteer hours or a donation for his Soul Food restaurant, because there's a book called Everyone in the World Should Eat. I remember getting it because it was advised to get it and read it, and I threw it in the trash because it was so bad, because nobody just said everybody should be able to eat without asking 20 questions before they get their food. We just say, where would you like to sit? And then if someone says there's no prices on it, at the top it says on the menu there's zero pricing. But then sometimes I don't have time to tell why. And I have a little thing that I hand to people, and it just says all of our prices are zero because, and I tell them why. And that's just because not everybody can afford to come in and have a cup of coffee and a pastry, or get out and meet your friends and be able to afford it. You know, but we have a lot of people who just come in and chat as well. And oftentimes pour coffee, even if they're not on volunteering, they'll pour coffee for everybody. It's kind of nice. It's a nice way. We get more remarks from people who are sent to us through Google. You know, they're maybe coming from Iowa or Minnesota or California. Even we had a couple of girls from California. And then they had some problems with their car, and they were going to Vermont. And so I talked to the garage owner across the way, because I know him really well. And I said, can you have a look at the girl's car before they leave here and get it roadworthy so they can get to Vermont? And he did, and he didn't charge them anything either. And so they got their meal, and they got a safe car to get them to where they were going. Well, it's little things like that kind of makes me believe in humankind.
So true.
It's so cute. It's so nice because it makes you feel good, not as an ego thing, but as seeing things happen like that. Seeing the Ayers brothers say, you're not paying for that bed. We're going to give you that bed for this lady. You know, we're going to deliver it tomorrow. And I'm like, wow, because I hate fundraising. I absolutely hate it, Anna. And I do it and I hate it. But I do it.
What would be your advice to people starting a new nonprofit, or even thinking about starting a new nonprofit?
Talk to someone who runs a nonprofit, a good nonprofit. And by that, there's hundreds of thousands of nonprofits. But talk to one that's close to your heart and what you want to do, and shadow them and get your ideas from them, because most nonprofits like to share. We like to share everything. Sometimes we share too much. No, I'm kidding. But I think if you were thinking about starting a nonprofit, really talk to someone who has successfully ran one. If you want to have a salary, there's no shame in that. We did not need the money. So it was no shame for us to say, we're not getting paid for this, because we're asking all our volunteers not to get paid as well. But there are many good nonprofits that do have salaried staff.
And lead by example.
Yeah.
I mean, talk is cheap.
Yeah. Just kind of, if someone wanted to start a nonprofit, there's not a book called How to Do a Nonprofit for Dummies. Maybe there should be one, but there isn't. Live and learn. But basically, go to a nonprofit that you know or are comfortable with and ask if you could kind of shadow them and see how they do things. There's no harm. You don't have to reinvent a wheel. If you've got a nonprofit that works, then I think it's okay for someone who's thinking of starting a nonprofit to ask that nonprofit if they could shadow them for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, however long it takes, to see even if it's something that they want to get involved in. Now, don't forget, the first two things I said is get a CPA and get an attorney. And also have insurance. They're the three big things that every nonprofit should have. And we're very fortunate.
A big heart.
A big
and
heart.
Work from your heart.
Yeah. Don't
It ain't in your head.
It's from your heart. At the end of the day, if it's more stressful than heartfelt, then is it for you? Because a lot of it, it does come from your heart, not your head.
I probably will need to follow up with you some other time about a couple of those things, like CPA and attorney, and a couple of your suggestions. I think the two of you could definitely teach a master class on how to run a successful nonprofit. That's for sure.
Well, part of it is we have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because we were single parents. We were part of the system. We had used food stamps, had used food pantries, and knew everything that everything that made a reason for you to not go, we already knew because we've been there and we've done that.
And we were both separate single parents, in case you're wondering. He was dad, and the mom to 13. So
thank you.
But we did work. We both worked. And there was never enough money not to feed everyone.
There was plenty of months left at the end of the money.
Yep.
What's the customer favorite of the Barneveld Community Cafe?
If it was me, I would say my terrible jokes. But
I was going to say food wise or bad joke wise.
Let's start with the food.
We serve a ton of omelets and a ton of skillets.
Yeah, omelets are the best seller.
Is there one in particular that's your specialty?
Well, I have a thing called the kitchen sink omelet, and it's made with peppers and onions and mushrooms and tomatoes and spinach and and bacon and ham and cheese and
sausage,
and sausage and
everything.
everything that's loose
Wow.
and some things that aren't. And they go like gangbusters.
Yeah, that is the
That
best
sounds
one.
amazing.
But we also have people who come in and they say, "Can I have an omelet? But I don't want cheese on it, but I would like
Well, they
this
make
on it." And I do custom orders. Really. I mean, I have a little point of sale system called Touch Bistro that 15 years ago was just getting off the ground, and now it's in most restaurants. But when it was first launched about 15 years ago,
What is it?
it's called Touch Bistro, and it's cloud-based now. But I helped with getting the glitches out of the system. And so when we opened the cafe here, they said, "How much do you want to pay for your system, Yvonne?" And I said, $36 because it's a nonprofit. And they said, "Okay, you've got it." So I have this beautiful piece of technology, which most people pay a lot more than $36 a month for, is because I helped them out when they were just starting out as a company in Toronto. And we're looking to start this point of sale system. And I held off for 3 years till I found a company that I liked when we actually had a for-profit restaurant. And because they were new and I liked their concept, we were the second restaurant in Wisconsin to have that company. And I redid all the, we actually put it in by ourselves, not Cliff, he didn't touch it, but me and my sons put it together. And
Oh,
yeah, Cliff, he does not touch IT. He does not like IT. I love it. I've built computers, with my kids. Just keep in touch with them and what they like to do is a great thing. When you have children and you want to keep close to them, find something that sparks their imagination. And I built a computer from the inside out with two of my sons. And it gave me a lot, well, they didn't realize it gave me a lot of mom time. And it gave them a supercomputer. I think 3 hard drives or something. It was amazing. And solid state drives before they were a thing. Yeah, 1 terabyte solid state drives. So it was
you have endless skills and talents. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I left school when I was 16. And I never went back, and I thought, oh no.
Seems like you didn't need it.
Well, I think I was very blessed to get good jobs. You didn't need more than but at 16 you graduate in Scotland anyway. And I was very lucky. My first job was working at the University of Glasgow as a librarian. And at 16, I was in charge of 2 libraries there. So you grow up quickly when you have that kind of experience.
No kidding.
Yeah. And from there on, I was just blessed with really good jobs, so, and in between times, really nice kids, lots of them. And life has been good.
How did you two meet?
He served me breakfast.
I made her breakfast for what, 12 years before we ever dated. We dated after we got married.
We dated after we got married. He said we dated. He said, "Would you like to go out for a burger? It's not a date or anything. It's just a burger." I said, "Sure."
I gotta say, I was smooth.
He was very smooth.
and
But every
I
time-
tricked you into getting married.
Well, I turned him down twice. I said no. But the third time I must have given in because apparently we're married.
I broke her spirit.
He broke me down by
Attrition.
yes. And it'll be 20 years into this month, actually.
Wow.
In about
Congratulations.
9 days. In
Thank you.
9 days, it'll be 20 years.
Yeah.
Well,
And
tell me if this is too personal, but if you have to move, what does that mean for the future of the Barneveld Community Cafe?
It depends where we end up. And if that's all,
we'll talk
pretty
to
much
the
it.
board, We'll talk to the board. We're praying for a miracle that there'll be a place opening up in Barneveld or nearby. But so far, within a 20-mile distance of Barneveld, there has been no rentals available. And we're told they can't go and say, oh, let's buy a house, because at our age, people would just laugh at us. Would you like a 5-day mortgage on that house?
Wow.
Not a 15-year mortgage. Like 5-day mortgage on that
15
house.
days, yeah.
Yeah, 15 days. So we just kind of laugh. We know that, I really believe that you're put places where you need to be. And that's kind of my philosophy in life. I never thought, having traveled the world, and I mean literally traveled, that I would end up in a little place called Barneveld, Wisconsin. And people would eat cheese curds and think that it was fun to hear them speak. And root beer tasted, when I first came over here, it tasted like medicine, like cough syrup, So, but I have adjusted. I love root beer. Cheese curds.
Yeah, it comes with beer and fried, yes.
Yeah, anything beer fried. I mean, so we're kind of, I've lived all over. My kids and I took a year sabbatical in the northern part of Mexico before I met Cliff. And I loved it. My daughter stayed there at the age of 16, and she taught English in the high school for a year. She stayed with the principal, who was a friend of mine, and his wife. And at 16, I never gave it a thought. I said, "Do you want to stay in Mexico for a year? Go for it, girl." So I was a traveler, traveled all over, and ended up in Barneveld. Go figure.
Talking to you is so inspiring for me, that's for sure. And all the experiences you've had and the way that you've embraced every turn in your lives is pretty incredible. Your humor and your ability to embrace life, I can see it's contagious. And I'm really sitting here waiting in suspense. I'm hoping everything comes together, mainly like hoping that your community keeps you right where you are, because I know they are cherishing you and what you're contributing so much. Thank you for taking time with me today. That was Cliff and Yvonne Cooks of Barneveld Community Cafe. Thank you again to both of them for sharing their knowledge and their perspective on how to be such exemplary members of a community. You can check them out on Facebook at Barneveld Community Cafe. And if you're in the area, make sure to check out all they have to offer, their wonderful food, and I hope you offer a big donation. Special thanks to Buzz Kemper for his voiceover artistry in the opening. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Tyler Willenbrink. I'm Anna Gouker. Until next time.
And if you don't understand what I'm saying, it's okay to say, Yvonne, I didn't quite catch that because of a Scottish accent, and it doesn't translate.
Okay, sounds good. And the same with me. If you don't understand something I say, feel free to let me know.
Okay, but you're sounding good.